How far does cannabis go back in human history? So far. And this paper lays out how deeply integrated it was into early human society. I'm Lex Pelger, and I'm sponsored by the National Cannabis Study, and they will pay you $100 to talk about your use of our favorite plant. Link in bio. You can also sign up for their newsletter where twice a month I curate the best of clinical cannabinoid science. From 2 different archaeological sites in northern China, scientists mapped the presence of cannabis phytoliths, which are basically like fossils of plants. Now, from genetic data, we already knew that the domestication of cannabis probably started around 12,000 years ago in East Asia. And the reason they domesticated cannabis was for use as both a fiber and as a seed to eat. In ancient China, cannabis was a staple and considered one of the 5 grains, the core of economically important crops, along with millet, rice, barley, and soybeans. Though, to be accurate, I should mention this list of the top 5 grains in ancient China is hotly disputed, and some scholars would replace hemp with wheat. Now, unfortunately for archaeologists, cannabis doesn't preserve well. It's organic and it breaks down easily, and even when you do have remains, it can be hard to differentiate them from other plants. And while people often talk about the stone tool revolution, just as important, and perhaps more important, was the fiber revolution. And according to this scholar in his excellent history of cannabis etymology in China, there were 3 centers of textile fibers in the ancient world: the linen culture in the Mediterranean, the cotton culture in India, and the hemp culture in Eastern Asia. Fiber allowed for baskets and bags. It was used to make snares for catching small animals and nets for fishing, bows for hunting, and of course, durable clothing. Even 6,000 years ago, there is pottery with impressions in it of rope and woven cloth, which some scholars believe to be hemp, though that's not really possible to know. But written records indicate the use of hemp as a fiber since the beginning, not only for making ropes, but also for tying knots as a means of record keeping before there was written language. Even the Chinese word for hemp, ma, looks like plants hanging under a roofed house. Eventually, the word ma came to stand for all types of fiber, and hemp was referred to specifically as ta ma, or great hemp. And there were also different words for the male and female hemp plants, as well as their fruits, flowers, and seeds, which shows that they had an intimate knowledge of its cultivation. So that's why this study of 2 sites from the late Neolithic, which is around 4,500 years ago, through to the early Bronze Age, which ended around 3,400 years ago, is so important. Because it was somewhere during that time that a strong, divergent selection of breeding started splitting the plant into one variety that was better for increased fiber production and another variety that was better for increased drug production. What the researchers found in these settlements was that the cannabis phytoliths were widespread throughout the homes and ash pits. And wherever there were other staple crops like millet or rice, cannabis was also there. As the researchers summarized, these findings suggest that cannabis was systematically integrated into the local agricultural economy by at least the late Neolithic 4,000 years ago. And I will say, since China was known from the earliest times as the land of mulberry and hemp, the many, many uses of the plant would flower there over the next millennia in everything from shamanism to paper. But if you want to hear more on that, you'll have to let me know you want another video.